YouTube, we got a neat one today. I am going to rewire some of the accessories on this little guy. Let's see if I can step back and get the whole thing in view. He wants to clean up the wiring on it, eliminate some excess wiring, and just get it generally cleaned up, add some switches in. So I'm tearing into this thing and see if we can't get it all cleaned up. As you can see, the wiring's really not all that bad. I mean, this is about what you would normally see on a ATV or something like this, but what he wants to do is eliminate all the inline fuses everywhere and go to just a central fuse block. This is a Blue Sea fuse block. It's got a constant and a switched, so we need to get this mounted and then get our wiring moved over. All right, here you go. You can see that I've got pretty well everything jerked out, undone, cleaned up. The wire for the Bluetooth speaker I've routed directly into the dash. We're going to eliminate the RCA cables altogether. We're going to be able to hook it directly in, so we won't need those anymore. We'll hook the power wire up in here. I talked with the customer a minute ago. We're going to build some sort of a plate or something to go in here to mount everything to. Possibly going to just use a piece of plywood. Likely be sufficient, being that where it is in the vehicle. It shouldn't get a whole lot of moisture in here. It'll get a little bit, but not a lot. But we're going to get this cleaned up a little bit more. Here in a little bit, I need to start mounting some switches in the dash. And then go from there. There's still a lot of little things like this I need to undo, but we'll undo those as we start connecting things and getting it all hooked up. But man, we've got a bunch of wires hanging here that it's got to go somewhere. Okay, so waiting on the owner to get back with some supplies. One thing I did is I cut the power cable for the winch and put 2 connectors on it. And then this is actually a block from a full-size Chevy truck, mid-90s. They divide the power up through one of these blocks. So what I've done is he's not apt to use this winch very much. He's also not apt to use the winch while everything else is going. And so what I've done is use that for my power from the battery up to the front of the truck, front of the ATV. And then we're going to split off this into the fuse panel where our switched and non-switched devices. And most of these devices have almost no draw. They've got real small fuses on them, so we're not really looking at a whole lot of juice being pulled. So I'm not really worried about there being a lot of drain on this cable. This cable is actually bigger than the battery cables from the engine to the battery, so it should be plenty. Well, the owner got back and we were scrounging around through his stuff, and I stumbled on this. It's a cover for an electrical panel, a small, like, outdoor type electrical panel. And wouldn't you know that it was bent and everything, just exactly like needed to be in here to hold this panel. So now I've got a place to set the fuse panel, get it screwed down, and then I can start working on all this and getting everything wired in. Now, that was a big step, and that's going to look factory. I mean, yeah, it's got some holes in it, but once you put the panel in, you will never know that that wasn't already here. I mean, it looks like it was made for the truck, made for the side-by-side. Keep calling it a truck. I guess kind of the way it does, it's got a bed on it. But we're getting closer. All right, it's getting dark out, so we've moved inside. As you can see, I've made some progress. Got some automatic breakers here. I've got my relay for my ignition switch power source. We've got the fuse panel mounted. Starting to hook some stuff into it. So we're starting to make some progress, and it's going to look pretty nice when it's done, I think. Okay guys, making some progress. As you can see, we're starting to get some stuff hooked up. The wiring will need a final routing, but starting to get it in place and how I want it to look. The fuse panel will be labeled. I'm not got it labeled yet. Starting to link up, basically just like dash lights is what this is. Once again, it'll be loomed and cleaned up when it's done, but for right now, it's just attached just so we can test it more or less, and then we'll clean it up afterwards. All right, now with what's wired, when we turn the switch on, all of our lights should be on. Need to put another one down here. I missed this one. Getting closer. All right, this is pretty much the finished panel. Got the wiring cleaned up. There's a couple of, this is part of the radio that I've got to connect. But as far as the electrical being up and working, that is. The relays are mounted. As you can see, all the switches are hooked in and everything's working. So tomorrow we'll bring some labeling and connecting the stereo back up once I get those adapters. But the hard part of all this is pretty much done. The day 2 here on the RZR. So he wants a power plug on the center console here, because he puts a fan in here for a heater. So we're going to open this up where he had a switch before and put a power port here. Alright, I got the cover labeled. I thought this thing came with labels, but it actually just came with little stickers you can put on here and scribble on it what it is. So I just got my label maker. Got the cover labeled. So now that can be put in. This is just temporarily tied up until I can get the adapters. I want to go ahead and put it back together so he can move it. This is a little surprise for the owner, something he doesn't know that I did. Then if you look in here, I got a switch and a power port, and what that is for is this is a ventilation fan for a boat. And what he does, he runs a little metal duct down to the exhaust manifold during the winter. Then when he's got this on, but made it extra heavy duty for him. Everything's rated way higher than what's needed. He could also use this for other stuff since it is at such a high rating. Well, that sucked. Alright, this is a horn off an S10. I modified the bracket slightly to kind of pull it back out of the way. And I used an existing hole as the hole like we'd have in the factory where it would keep it from spinning. And then what we did, or I did, is I put a cheap little button in here. So he's got a horn. Alright, so it's back together. This will connect to his phone. It's hooked back up. But the subwoofer that he's got down here, the amp is not connected to this. So that's what we're waiting on, the connectors. They should be here in a couple days. But here we go. Turn the light on. Turn the ignition on. There's the roof light. Down here we have the front bumper light. This is interior lights, and he's got rock lights on it. So all the rock lights should be lit up. And I think he's got a light. Yeah, he's even got a light up inside the grill. So that all works. If we flip this switch and hold this down, Alright, overhead speaker works. Everything stock still works as stock, like, you know, headlights and whatnot. Of course, we added the horn button. And then down here, for his heater, we've got a little plug, and then that works. So I believe that is everything he wanted me to do. Alright, so one thing we have left to do down the road is he wants to add dual batteries. And at that point, we will upgrade the cable that goes from the battery up to under the hood, because it'll have more power available then. And then, you know, that should be a relatively simple fix for him to run the dual batteries. But that's a lot of work done in basically 24 hours. And he should be happy. All the stuff he has to be fixed is fixed, and we should be good to go from here. And I just want to show that I did fix this light down here. That's the front bumper lights, but there was no light on it before when I turned the ignition on, but that's fixed now.